Hello and welcome to Wednesday Live with Evie. This is live number 92. And the topic today, sorry, I was looking at my notes and I had the wrong number written down. So then I was wondering if I was in last week's notes instead of this week's. But nope, I'm in this week's. So today is topic number 92, and it is getting to the real cause of overwhelm. So say hi in the comments. Let me know that you're here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Evie Burke, and I work with women entrepreneurs and I help them take their productivity to a new level so that they can become better project managers in their business. So they can be the ones in charge of their business instead of their business being in charge of them. And over the weekend, just going right into the topic today, over the weekend, I was partaking in one of my favorite December activities right now, and that was working on a puzzle at the dining room table and listening to podcasts. And I was listening to a podcast where the host quoted Matthew Kimberly, and Matthew Kimberly has a very successful business. He used to run Michael Port's, or be president of, I'm not sure of the exact term, but he used to run Michael Port's Book Yourself Solid business. The one that both, you can work with coaches in that methodology, and it also trains coaches in Michael Port's methodology of Book Yourself Solid. So he no longer does that, but very successful. I follow him. He has a lot of great information to share. But anyway, I heard this quote attributed to him that I just had to look up. And I just loved it so much. And the quote from Michael Kimberly, or that is attributed to Michael Kimberly, is overwhelm is not a result of having too much to do. It's the result of not knowing what to do next. And I love that. I love that so much. Mary says, I'm not as overwhelmed as Quincy is not spoiled. Okay, Mary. But yes, I love this quote. Overwhelm is not a result of having too much to do. It's a result of not knowing what to do next. And I know when I'm overwhelmed, this is exactly what is going on with me. I probably didn't make my to-do list that day. And by 10 a.m., I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm frustrated because there's just so much to do, right? But as soon as I take a step back and I look at what I really want to do or what I really need to be working on, and I take the time to make that list and identify what my priorities are and what needs to be completed that day, then it's like magic. Like the overwhelm gets lifted from my shoulders. It doesn't mean that there's still not things that need to get done, but now I have a plan. Now I know what it is that I need to be focusing on next, and I've made that decision. So these days, this process goes fairly quickly for me because I have a quarterly plan, I have a monthly plan, and so because I have those things already figured out, I know what my priorities are, right? I know what my goals are, I know what my priorities are. I have taken the time to set the quarterly ones. I've taken the time to set, this is what I'm focusing on for this month. And 90% of the time, I've taken the time to say, okay, these are things that I need to get done this week, which means creating my list for what needs to happen today is usually a fairly streamlined process. But things didn't always work like this for me. I remember a time, this was when I was working for someone else, and planning just seemed like such a waste of time. Why take the time out of my busy day to sit down and plan out what needs to get done when I could be spending that time actually getting things done, right? That was my mentality. And what happened was a lot of things were falling through the cracks. And I really did feel like I was drowning. I would go to bed at night and I'd just lay there and I'd be thinking about all of the things that I had meant to do, that I had meant to get to, that I had just completely forgotten about during the day. Just a quick conversation where I told a client, oh, yeah, I'll shoot you an email with that information. And then we started talking about something else, and then I forgot all about it. And I was like, oh, crap, I need to remember to email them when I get into the office tomorrow and send them that information. Or, oh, I told my coworker that I would do XYZ, and I just completely forgot about it. So there were so many like little things falling through the cracks, and it was starting to build up, right? The clients were starting to say, well, whatever happened to XYZ? And I'd be like, oh crap, I forgot. And that's not where you want to be, right? And it only started to improve after I decided to take an afternoon and just sit down and just what needs to get done. What are the projects that are open? What are the issues that are still open, or the questions and the problems clients have that I haven't closed out? What are the like everything? Just getting everything out and onto some paper. And I can share with you a story some other time of what that system looked like for a little bit, which worked for the season, but was definitely not a long-term solution, but it was interesting. But anyway, once I took that time to write it all down and get it all out of my head and pull it out of the computer, even because we had a system on the computer where all of the problems and the things that we were working on with clients lived. But it was really great for um, keeping everybody in the loop, but it wasn't a good way for me to manage what I needed to work on next. It just wasn't the way my head worked. So once I got everything down on paper, though, things started to go a little bit better. And never wanting to experience that feeling again has really been a huge motivator in my business, of not wanting to be in that spot where I literally felt like I was drowning in all of the things that needed to get done, because oh man, that sucked. I'll just tell you, that did not feel good at all. And I've still had times though where I felt a little lost, a little overwhelmed with the things that needed to get done in my business. And sometimes it was even just not knowing what I needed to be focusing on. And a lot of times it comes back to not knowing what the goals are, not having written things down, not being really clear on where I wanted my business to go, or how I wanted to get to where I wanted my business to go. So when I find myself in those situations where I'm overwhelmed and not sure what to focus on next, and I don't, or I haven't been keeping up with my planning, or my weekly lists, or even my daily lists, the thing that I always come back to is doing the brain dump, getting everything out of my head and onto a piece of paper, because there's just something about that, whether it's paper or you putting it into the computer somewhere, just creating a document with it, just getting it out of your head. Um, I'm blanking on his name, David Allen. I love the David Allen quote about your brain. Your brain is for having ideas, not holding them. And it's so true. When I can do that brain dump, get everything onto a piece of paper, and that's not just the tasks that need to get done, or the projects that need to get done, or the goals that I want to focus on, but also decisions that I need to make, phone calls that need to be made, like all of those things that are floating out of my head, around in my head, getting them out and onto a piece of paper. That's always step one. And then step two is looking at, what are my goals? What are your goals, right? Is it deadlines? Is it income? Is it a certain project that is just the highest priority for you right now? Knowing what those goals are, what those priorities are, like on a bigger level, are really important, because that leads to step three, which is identify your priorities based on those goals. So going through that list that you made in step one, right? Going through that brain dump and starting to see, okay, which ones are tied to what my priorities are right now, what the goals are right now. taking that bigger look at it. Is it income producing? Is it a deadline? Is it part of this project? Like whatever that big goal or that big priority is, just starting to go through and looking at things like that. And what happens is you start to realize, okay, these are the really high priority items, and these are the things that I want to do, that I want to get done, but they're not actually that important for me right now. And you'll find that sometimes you've been focusing over here on these things that aren't as important instead of the things that are really reaching you towards your goals, things over here, right? So when you notice that, when you start working on the big things and you start getting these things done, then and having that plan of what needs to happen and what are the things that you're getting done today, that's when the overwhelm starts to dissipate. That's when you start to feel less stressed, right? And if you need some help with any of this, you know what? I'm available. This is what I do. I help people with this kind of stuff. So whether you're a current client or whether you are maybe a future client or just somebody who is looking at what do I do, reach out to me. Whether it's in the comments or a private message, reach out to me. This is a process that I can walk you through or walk with you through. And that's really what it's about. That's really what it's about, right? Is making sure you know what needs to happen in your business so that you can get those things done. And, going back to what I said at the beginning of the live when I introduced myself, it's all about making sure that you're running the business and not that the business is running you, right? So, again, if you need help with that, let me know. And you know what? That's it. That's all I have for you today for this week's Wednesday Live with Evie. So until next week, much love. Bye, everybody.